Welcome to the Jiu Jitsu Oracle's first ADCC review show, where in this episode we're going to get into our general thoughts on the show and the big talking points coming out of it. We're going to have some more videos where we get into the specific weight classes and the absolute. How many videos there are remains to be seen. It depends how long we take to talk about the matches. But in this first video, Calum and I, Ross, are going to talk about our thoughts on the ADCC as a whole. Calum, what were your thoughts on this year's World Championship finale?
So my thoughts are obviously going to be tied in with CGI, just because the weekend was those two events linked together. I think watching CGI on day one and then watching ADCC after made me have certain thoughts about ADCC that I don't usually have, but that direct comparison kind of made some things obvious to me. So the production quality and stream I don't think was as good for ADCC. Maybe they will consider hiring someone other than Flow Grappling to do the next one, because we've seen CGI, apparently it was 50 grand they spent on a production quality. What comes into that production we don't really know, but that was a lot better of a product, I thought, to watch. As well, for CGI, getting to just sit back and relax and enjoy one match at a time was a big plus for them over ADCC. It's very, not stressful, but you kind of have to like dot around a bunch of different mats at the same time and try to keep up with everything, and you do miss a lot of details and you have to end up going and watching stuff back over again. So that was another down for ADCC. And then as well, some of the divisions, aside from the likes of 66 and the women's divisions, just weren't as deep, just because people were competing at CGI and moved over from them. That being said, though, there was still some great matches, great jiu-jitsu, great storylines, big upsets. So overall, still a good weekend for ADCC, but some things that CGI kind of made apparent that weren't the best.
So we'll start taking these things in turn. I think you're right to highlight some issues with the broadcast production. And it does feel like we talk about this time and time again when it comes to ADCC and their chosen broadcast partner, Flow Grappling. On the Saturday, the first day, when I was trying to watch the matches, the sound was all over the place. I was getting commentary from another mat on the over the top of the match I was watching, which was a bit frustrating. So yeah, I'd like to see those things get cleared up. I thought CGI's YouTube production was really, really good, aside from, as you've highlighted, some annoying adverts, which if you were on the budget tier would pop up now and again. Yeah, I think there should be an effort made to tighten that up, the sound issues, the production issues, some of the production snafus that happen. Just on sound issues.
Sticking on
When you go.
Sticking on the stream, I was kind of wondering whether this was just an issue with me and my internet, but like the streams were freezing quite a lot of the time, and I was watching CGI live and it never really froze once. For ADCC, the stream seemed to freeze and then it would kind of rejoin later in the match as well, which is very annoying. So I was wondering if that was a common issue people were having or just my internet at the time, because it didn't seem to be my internet, just off of the fact that CGI was performing fine while I was watching that.
Okay. While we're talking about sound, I thought the commentary was good. I enjoyed listening to the analysis of the matches as they were going on. So that was good. Talking about the sound issues though, I believe from a live experience, there are comments online that people really didn't enjoy the music that played during the matches, and were quite happy when the music got turned off for the finals. So I wasn't there live for this ADCC, but if you were and you have thoughts on the sound situation in the live experience, please let us know in the comments, because I'd be interested to know whether it's more enjoyable to watch it with the music in the background, or whether it's better to watch it just with the fan noise.
My only experience from that was competing at the ADCC Scotland tournament, and they had the music on as well. And I found that quite annoying because I couldn't really hear you and Martin cornering me. I was kind of trying to make out while there was like music blasting in the background, so I found that quite annoying. So I could potentially see what they're on about.
Okay. Now, as a live production, the arena, etc., what did you think of that?
The arena, obviously, is a bigger venue than the Thomas and Mac. Whether they had more seats in total, I don't know, but it did seem at points to have a smaller percentage of their seats filled out than CGI, which, again, Craig's whole point about them hiring a big venue and not paying the athletes kind of goes into that point even more, because they seem to not need that. As well, even though they had like the bigger screens to walk the athletes out and everything, I didn't really like the look of it as much as CGI's. And again, they obviously spent more money on that. So overall, like, it looks cool, but I think the whole thing made out about, oh, we're going to get the T-Mobile, the production's going to be like off the charts. I still preferred CGI's, even though they spent less money on it. So that's my thoughts as far as that. I mean, I don't think it was bad, the overall look of the venue and everything. I just think for the money that they seemingly spent on it, I wasn't overly impressed.
I think there's two factors there, and where you should spend your money on, spend your money and how much the athletes should get paid is definitely like a big talking point. And I think the athletes should get paid more for competing. But I think when it came to the T-Mobile Arena, where it really came into its own was in the finals. I thought the finals day by ADCC looked amazing. You're right that there seemed to be empty seats, but I think that was earlier on in the days, and like by the time the finals rolled around, it looked really busy. If you were there live, I'd like your input as to how busy it was. But I think like for those big matches at the end, it looked absolutely amazing. I didn't really enjoy the way athletes were brought out, etc. Like on the first day, I don't really think it's necessary to have like entrances all the time and stuff like that. It's just like, just get the guys on the mat.
Yeah, matches are going on kind of like Royal Rumble style. It was a bit unnecessary. I preferred that about CGI as well. It was like you're just sat down watching their walk out and not kind of having it going on in the background. That seemed a bit weird.
But this was into my point on the show. I thought this about CGI, and I think this about ADCC definitely. It's paced too slow as a live. Like, you shouldn't be sitting 8-9 hours. It's like all these extra bits of like walkouts and stuff like that taking time. They just add up. It's like when you referee a jiu-jitsu tournament, right? You know you're in for a long day, so you want the next match on deck, ready to go right away. You know, especially in the early days. I think like the pageantry is amazing for the finals, and like giving them like something extra, something special, like really adds to the occasion of it being a world championship final. So I enjoyed it in the second day, but I didn't really think it was so necessary in the first day. So I would just like to see it tick along a bit quicker, and appreciating that like the fans are sitting there on plastic seats or in front of their TVs at home, and you know, there's only so much time that like people can dedicate to stuff like that. So while we want to see the matches, I do think they should tick along a bit quicker. I have a question about how it was organised. Why this time did teammates not face off until the semi-finals?
Yeah, I don't know about that. We'll get into it more when we talk about the divisions, but I thought it was odd that they placed Baby Shark and Fabricio Andre 2 matches apart again, even though they're not teammates this time. I thought they could have spread them out and given more them both a bit more of a chance in each side of their brackets. But yeah, I don't know why that was suddenly a rule change. Obviously, if they just did it for one team, like New Wave, they would have been called out for favoritism. So perhaps it was discussed with Mo that they would like them to be spread out a bit more, and then Mo decided that to avoid the look of favoritism, he would do it with every division. That seems like a plausible conspiracy theory, but obviously I don't know for sure. But yeah.
I thought it was strange because in the previews, from what I remember, the shows on Flow Grappling building up to the event, there was talk of, these two athletes will have to face by the second round. And then all of a sudden the brackets came out on the Friday. And again, I would like the brackets to come out sooner. I thought CGI having their brackets out like about 2 weeks before really helped build some excitement, and you started to be able to get into chatting with your mates about who's going to face who and how it might play out. It's tough, especially if you're in different time zones. Like, we were all waiting to see who Scotland's Mark McQueen would get, and didn't know until I woke up on Saturday morning how that bracket was going to play out. So, yeah, from that point of view, I'd like the brackets to come out a bit earlier. But yeah, again, it's like, can we have some consistency in how things happen? It's like all of a sudden there was just nothing said, and the brackets were announced with teammates not facing each other as early as expected. And I thought stuff like that's a bit frustrating,
I've got a question for you. So I brought up that after watching CGI and then going back to ADCC, it was quite frustrating trying to keep up with 3 mats at the same time. So you've got that side of the issue, then the side of the issue you brought up, which conflates with that you felt like the days went on for too long. So obviously if you were to try fix my problem and maybe have 1 match at a time, that would potentially lead to even longer days. So trying to solve those 2 issues simultaneously, what kind of things would you propose for that?
Okay, some ideas. Run the event over more than 2 days. I know it'll cost more money to hire arenas and pay for hotels and pay for staff, but then you have more opportunity to sell tickets, you can increase your streaming rights, etc. But if you think of big sporting occasions, we've just watched the Olympics. That lasted for 2 weeks. The Football World Cup lasts for about a month. Wimbledon has been on this summer. In the UK, there's wall-to-wall TV coverage of that over 2 weeks. People watching tennis for, days at a time. So I think you could do it over 3 days. You could do it over 5 days. What I think on that is that I don't see as many new ideas being tried. I think it's very traditionalist. It's like the ADCC still seems to run to the same format and the same rules that have existed for a long, long time. And why not try something different? And
I think the multiple mats, let's say, for example, you're doing gi worlds at Blue Belt and there's 8 mats on at the same time. That's fine because aside from people watching people they know, that's not really for spectators. That's just a tournament to see who's best. And back in the day, that's mostly what ADCC was, because not that many people were interested in watching it. But now that it is becoming more of a spectator thing, and that's the way you're pushing the sport, it makes sense to change it towards the position of the spectators and not just trying to run through the competition as quickly as possible in as few days as possible.
Yeah, maybe if you want to have 16 competitors in the brackets, use the Thursday and Friday to whittle it down to 8, and then have 8 guys face off across the Saturday and Sunday, and make the Saturday, Sunday even more prestigious than it already is. I'm not saying that's the answer. I'm just saying it's a good point of discussion, and I would like to see different things tried so that we're not faced with day after day of long stints watching grappling. I think as well, the thing with it, I love the absolute in the ADCC, but the thing is, by the second day is good in that you've got less matches in terms of the weight classes, but then you throw in the absolute and the day takes probably even longer. Yeah. So I don't know, maybe it needs to be stretched out a bit more. Maybe you whittle down the divisions and have a sort of finals day. I don't mind as much as you 3 mats running at once. I totally understand your viewpoint because you want to watch absolutely everything. I think that using Wimbledon as an example, you have like into double figures of courts running at the same time, and you just have to pick and choose which match you go to and invest in. And if you miss stuff, you have to try and catch up on it later, or just accept the fact that like there's just this many people in the tournament and you're not going to see absolutely everything.
I think, but because jiu-jitsu matches are a lot shorter than tennis and can end like within 5 seconds, even if you're invested to watching one match, like once that ends, then you need to go back and look at the 3 match and be like, am I going to wait for the next match on mat 1, or am I going to switch to mat 3? And it's like still effort rather than just sitting back and it goes in front of you, you know?
So one other thing on that would be, if we'll call it flow zone, but if the main channel was better at showing everything from multiple matches, so it's almost like if you want to see everything, watch this stream, and like they'll cut to interesting stuff and have replays and make it more like not just one map being shown at a time and then now and again just getting a little replay from here and there, but actually making that flow zone a better production of trying to get everything in. Then, because I tend to go and watch flow zone and just sit and watch that because I know I'll get up to date with other things that have happened. But I think how do they get you up to date could maybe be improved. And then I tend to then go back into the brackets thereafter in days subsequent and actually watch the full matches of the ones I want to watch because I've kind of been given a little highlight as to what happened.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think they could definitely do a better job with that. Like to talk about the overall jiu-jitsu without delving into anything specific, but before we do that, is there anything else you want to bring up about the production or arena or anything relating to that?
No, I think we should crack on and do the big headlines coming out of the event without talking about necessarily specific matches yet.
Okay, before that though, what was your opinion on the overall jiu-jitsu, how exciting it was, the pacing of the matches compared to CGI?
My thought on that is that I think there will be people who say CGI was generally more exciting, okay? But I think there were way more matches at ADCC, so you're going to have more matches that don't quite hit that exciting status. And I think there were plenty of exciting matches in the ADCC. So I thought overall ADCC was a good show and I've enjoyed catching up on it. But what I've not done is watch absolutely every match. And definitely there were matches that I knew wouldn't be as exciting. And I've kind of skipped through bits and got the main points out of it. And then there are matches where I thought they would be super exciting and sat and watched them. Or there was matches I was just intrigued in seeing what would happen and I invested in the full match. It's kind of different than CGI because it was just one match after the other. But there's a little bit of like rose-tinted specs with CGI as well because there was some boring matches in that you have to remember. So it wasn't all Andrew Tackett against Pedro Tolo. But yeah, what did you think of like the overall excitement of what we saw?
I think, obviously, the things that are going to affect the overall jiu-jitsu and excitement are the athletes involved, the time of the matches, and the rule set. Those are going to be the main things for the most part. I think there was exciting athletes in both events. I think, as far as the times, both matches from each event had potential to go 15 minutes. I think having that 10-minute first period did lead to a slower pace to a certain extent. Like, I don't think, like for Kynan, for example, his passing style was very much kind of breaking people down, putting pressure on them over time, and then getting the pass, which I enjoy watching as well. And I think Some people maybe don't enjoy that as much and just want to see two guys scrapping for 5 minutes, having a minute rest, and then go back to scrapping, which is also exciting in a different way. So yeah, I enjoyed both of them. I think they were both just different flavors of how you like watching jiu-jitsu. Boring matches from both, exciting matches from both. So just a different pace, different rule set, different things prioritized. So I was pretty happy with both on that front. I think overall, yeah, CGI was more exciting, but there was really fun jiu-jitsu to watch at ADCC and good stuff to be studied overall from watching that.
I agree. I think a tournament with the likes of J-Rod and Diego Paolo, to name just two, can't be boring, right? So like, there was plenty of excitement. Owen Jones, I mean, we can start throwing out names of like amazing things we saw. And again, CGI, an issue is if there's only one match on and it's not as exciting, so let's say Ignacio Santos against Pedro Alex from memory, wasn't as exciting, then you're kind of watching it, waiting for it to reach a conclusion. Whereas like the advantage of having 3 match run at the same time in the ADCC is like you can flip over and check out something else. So, but no, I thought it was a good event. There was plenty of excitement, and I thought the finals, the spectacle, etc., was absolutely amazing. So I've probably not seen it like produced better than like that final set of weight class matches. I thought were really, really good. Couple of big talking points just to finish off then, Calum. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Our MVP for the weekend is?
This for ADCC or just between both?
Overall, there's only one guy.
I think Kynan for me. I think, yes, Nicky Rod had a flawless performance. He got 4 out of 4 subs. Kynan, though, had double the matches and still managed to get 7 out of 8 subs. I think his strength of schedule was high. You're doing that as well. And if you're just counting off of that amount of wins and that amount of subs, make a strong argument that that's the second best ADCC performance of all time after Hodger, who got 8 out of 8. And the thing is, as well, we know that when Gordon was going for double gold, both times around, even though he only had 5 matches the last time compared to 8, he was desperately trying to get that all subs. He was trying to get that 8 out of 8 subs when he won his weight division in the absolute, and he didn't manage to do it. He managed to only get 6, and Kynan, on the other hand, I imagine, was just coming in trying to get the job done, and he managed to come away with 7 subs. So I think that was absolutely amazing work from Kynan.
Agreed. How would you rate ADCC Kynan in the grand scheme of things?
Yeah, when we did our tier list, we had 2 guys in S tier for under 99. That was Merigali and Kynan. We ended up putting Merigali slightly over Kynan, and we had some people in the comments suggesting that because of Kynan's recent performances, maybe we should put him in A tier, but I thought beforehand, no, ADCC Kynan is different. He showed that the last 2 ADCCs in his divisions, he comes up, he shows up, he gets the job done every time, and he got the job done here again. So I think even if Kynan has not the best next couple of years in ADCC, I'll still favour him because showing up to ADCC, that's what he does. He wins. We've seen this the past few times. As far as his overall placing in the ADCC GOAT conversation, so this isn't like overall jiu-jitsu, this isn't just no-gi jiu-jitsu, just in ADCC, I think he is definitely up there. I think you've got a list in front of you for guys that have won golds from, excluding the superfights, just from divisions, and I think he's up there now with the likes of Gordon and Marcelo and a couple of others. So I think he's up there in that conversation now. If he was to beat Gordon in the super fight next time around, that would be big for him. But I would agree with you as well that I do value the golds coming from divisions rather than just the super fight as well, especially made up super fights like the one with Gordon and Felipe,
which we'll get into more in a future edition of the Jiu Jitsu Oracle. That was a point I was going to bring up. We've got a new contender in the GOAT conversation for ADCC, and it is Kynan. 4 golds coming through weight class wins, 3 weight class wins, and an absolute now. Marcelo did 4 weight class, was a whisker away from adding an absolute title to that as well, which given his weight would have like hugely increased his chances of being like undisputed GOAT. Gordon has 4 from weight class and absolute, but I think this thing of like adding super fight titles in only really became a thing because I don't know if it was Andre Galvao himself who started talking about it or people started talking about it with regards to Andre Galvao. But I think, the vast majority of his medals come from super fights. So, I think maybe, well, I tend just to look at the weight class and absolute and don't really care about like the super fight golds being used as like actual titles. Shout out Gabby Garcia, Jiu-Jitsu's biggest babyface now as well, who's got 4 weight class titles to her name. And while we're chatting about female grapplers, we have to give props to Adele Fornerino, who is very, very close to that MVP crown, having won weight and absolute, and winning the absolute as a lighter grappler is a heck of an achievement. But we're going to get into the absolute divisions on a future episode of the Jiu Jitsu Oracle. I think one more talking point just now, just like big headline, Atos winning 6 golds, huge achievement. I think in recent times there's been a lot of talk about other teams, New Wave, B Team, Art of Jiu Jitsu, but I know Atos don't have competitors who don't necessarily train at HQ all the time. But that said, the guys under their banner really showed up this weekend and had tremendous performances. And I think it's just a reminder of the strength of Atos, including the MVPs that we're talking about. so yeah, well done Atos for their performance. Again, like if you want to suggest that you think like other teams are better than them right now, let us know. But I think like right now, as it stands, off the back of that weekend, I'd say Atos are leading the pack right now. Things can change though. Is there anything else you want to bring up on this episode?
There's some big headlines as far as some upsets and stuff, but I think we can get into that in a bit more detail when we talk about the matches specifically.
Yep. So next edition of the Jiu Jitsu Oracle, we're going to go into the weight classes for male and female. And then I would guess that conversation will fill the next episode. And then we'll have a third episode where we get into the super fights and the absolute divisions. But let's see how it all shakes out. For this edition, though, that's our chat on the overall ADCC experience that we had at the weekend. Please let us know what you thought about the ADCC in the comments.